Hello, it's 8 a.m. Saturday, May 31st here in Hanoi, and you're watching VTV News. And let's now get you caught up with the headlines. National Assembly deputies to add protest laws to the 2015 Law and Ordinance Building Program. Sunken Vietnamese ship crew determined to continue fishing. And Vietnam-United States trade to reach $33 billion. First up, on Friday, National Assembly deputies in Hanoi reached a consensus to add protest laws to the 2015 Law and Ordinance Building Program. At an earlier meeting on Monday, many deputies pointed out the need for protest laws in Vietnam, which both recognize the rights of citizens and maintain civil order. This is a legitimate need and has been recognized in the 1992 Constitution of Vietnam. The law is expected to create a legal framework for protest in Vietnam. It will stipulate place, scale, and agenda for protest to prevent conflict and vandalism to businesses and the public. On Friday evening, the 13th Asia Security Summit, otherwise known as the Shangri-La Dialogue, officially kicked off in Singapore. This year's event gathered delegations from both Asian and non-Asian countries. Before the dialogue officially began, Vietnam's Minister of Defense Phùng Quang Thanh held discussions with his Australian and Indonesian counterparts. EC tensions are expected to be high on the agenda during the summit. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe opened this year's dialogue with a speech that promoted the respect of international laws to head towards peace and prosperity for all of Asia. Abe also promised that Japan would play a more active role in maintaining peace and security in the region. The Farm Report outlines the latest developments in the EC. Reports from the Vietnam Fisheries Surveillance Department show that as of Friday, May 30th, China is still defending the illegally placed Haiyang Shiyou 981 oil rig with its fleet of ships and aircraft.
Regarding the situation in the EC, Vietnam's marine police and fisheries surveillance ships are persistent in their efforts to enforce maritime law within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. Using loudspeakers, they have called for China to withdraw its oil rig and fleet of ships from Vietnam's waters. Meanwhile, Chinese ships maintain a close quarters with all Vietnamese ships operating in the area. At 11:30 a.m. local time, the Vietnamese Coast Guard spotted the aircraft CMS 3843 circling overhead at low altitude. It is also reported that China has 59 vessels and 2 warships around the Haiyang Shiyou oil rig.
The DNA 90152 fishing boat sunk by a Chinese ship was towed to the shore for repairs on Lison Island on Thursday. 10 fishermen who were on board were also safely returned to their homes in Da Nang City late last night. According to the survivors, at 4 p.m. on May 26th, about 40 Chinese ship fishing boats surrounded their fishing ships, which hailed from Da Nang City in an area about 17 nautical miles south-southwest from the location of the illegal oil rig Haiyang Shiyou 981. Chinese fishing boat number 11209 rammed into Vietnamese fishing ship DNA 90152 with 10 fishermen on board. The hot heat sank the local ship, while Vietnamese fishing boat operating nearby managed to save about all the 10 crew members. The fishermen will continue their trip in the traditional fishing grounds near the Hoàng Sa Islands when they recover from the accident, they said. Vietnamese fishermen making their living on their traditional fishing grounds now have their lives threatened every day by the violent and hostile actions of the Chinese. Our following report will bring you the story of the fishermen of the DNA 90152 fishing vessel, which was rammed and sunk by Chinese ships earlier this week.
10 Da Nang fishermen of the ship DNA 90152 embarked on a 20-day fishing trip with hopes of making a huge catch. However, they made it back to Lý Sơn port on Thursday afternoon with only their lives.
Our ship and two other Vietnamese fishing ships encountered a group of Chinese ships. There were so many that I couldn't count them all. We were chased by them and then they rammed us and sank our ship.
The fishermen returned to Lý Sơn port on Thursday afternoon and made it back home to Da Nang City by 11 p.m. Having lost all their belongings on board their sunken ship, the men came home with only the clothes that they were wearing.
The Chinese threw glass bottles on the deck of our ships as they chased us, and then they rammed and sank us. I was aware that we may be chased away from our fishing ground by the Chinese, but I was shocked that this time they intended to sink us on purpose.
Da Nang fishermen have been fishing in the waters surrounding the Paracel Islands for many generations, and they've shown their determination to hold on to their fishing ground at any cost.
I am still ready to go on fishing trips again, even at my age. The Hoàng Sa and Trường Sa archipelagos belong to Vietnam, so we have no fear about going out again.
The owner of the sunken ship revealed that the ship is valued at more than 3 billion Vietnam dong, or $141,000, not counting the belongings of his 10-man crew.
I will do my best to repair my ship as soon as possible so that my fellow fishermen can sail again and continue to earn a living.
The ship DNA 90152 was towed back to Lý Sơn port this Friday, and it is scheduled to set sail immediately after its repairs are complete.
Vietnam is wholly determined to solve the sea issue and protect its sovereign rights by diplomatic measures. Furthermore, the nation is also intends to maintain its foreign relations and economic ties with China. Our following report will show you how the southern province of Trà Vinh has guaranteed the safety of 1,500 Chinese laborers currently working in the province.
This is one of the meetings between Trà Ving's municipal government and the contractors that employ Chinese workers. Besides the project's progress, the local authorities are also concerned about the safety of the workers and the security of the projects. Thankfully, a number of harmful activities that could have jeopardized Trà Ving's production as well as its order and security have been prevented by meaningful communication between the local authorities, investors and employees.
The local branch of the party, the government and the police force have made a combined effort to make the people understand that the situation on the EC has no relation with the Chinese people working here. We've guaranteed their safety and encouraged them to continue working here. The businesses here are very happy to cooperate with the authorities in implementing measures to protect the safety of their workers and maintain public order.
Thanks to the government's proactive measures, Vietnamese people are demonstrating their patriotism in peaceful ways. Vietnam has always considered China a neighbor and has gone to great lengths to protect the investment environment for Chinese businesses. Vietnam also urges Chinese enterprises and workers to support justice and preserve peace in the region.
Our firm has close relations with the local authority. Working in Vietnam, I feel as if I were at home. We'll try to ensure the progress as well as the quality of the project.
Out of 4,000 workers in Trà Vinh, 1,500 are Chinese people who are hardworking and cooperative. Their main goal is to finish all the projects of the Coastal Electricity Center on time, one of which is the Coastal Thermal Electricity Factory No. 1, expected to go into operation by the end of this year.
Architecturally, culturally and historically valued, the Hue Ancient Capital Complex is listed in the 23 National Relics of Extreme Importance and is a site of the World Cultural Heritage. As such, it requires renovation. However, this is no easy task since the complex is a wooden structure.
Phan Thuận An has spent decades researching Huế and also has great enthusiasm for documents about Vietnam's sea and island sovereignty. In May 2009, he introduced an administrative official document from the Vietnamese Nguyen dynasty. Later, An unveiled the second administrative official document in French and Vietnamese. He also discovered the image of Vietnamese sea and island sovereignty carved on 9 dynastic urns in Huế. Recently, his collection of official documents from the Nguyen dynasty, which centers Vietnam's sovereignty over the Spratly and Paracel archipelagos, has been recognized by UNESCO as a documentary heritage of the world. The collection is also an important legal basis for sea and island sovereignty.
Most of these documents are old, so I have already thought about how to preserve them well so that people can have access to them.
Thừa Thiên Huế frequently suffers from flooding and high humidity, so digitization is believed to be the best solution for the preservation of precious documents. For now, Thừa Thiên Huế General Library is utilizing Sino-Gnome digitization software to digitize the documents about the Spratly and Paracel archipelagos. Meanwhile, a search for more similar documents is taking place.
We will continue to meet with researchers in different localities to persuade them to digitize their documents. The harsh weather conditions in Huế may affect the durability of the documents, so digitization is the optimal solution to preserve them.
Many of the documents are highlight Vietnam's sovereignty over the Spratly and Paracel archipelagos have been found in Thừa Thiên Huế province. However, most of them belong to private collectors who do not have the equipment to preserve them. The digitization process is the solution to help future generations have access to the documents and help Vietnam prove its rightful sovereignty over its sea and islands.
Coming up next on VTV News, Vietnam-United States trade to reach $33 billion. Military artist uses art to send out strong motivation messages.
Exotic Vietnam is an intriguing blend of many charms. This land is where all manner of stunning landscapes await like a visual feast, rivaled only by the beauty of its people and their abundantly rich tradition and culture. Here is where you can relive the past in richest color or live it up in the bright lights of the big city. With so much more to offer, Vietnam is simply unforgettable.
Welcome back to VTV News, brought to you live from Hanoi. The Ministry of Health held a meeting in Hanoi yesterday morning to talk to the public about the hazards of smoking and call for an increase to tobacco taxes. The meeting was held to mark the World No Tobacco Day on May 31st. Currently, there are about 15.3 million smokers in Vietnam. Tobacco use annually accounts for around 40,000 deaths in the country. The National Strategy on Tobacco Harm Control and Prevention aims to reduce the male smoking rate to 39% by 2020 from nearly 50% at present. Therefore, Vietnam has set a target of increasing the special consumption tax for tobacco from 65% at present to 105% by next year. The third Vietnam-South Korea strategic dialogue on diplomacy, security and national defense at deputy ministerial level opened in Hanoi on Thursday. At the dialogue, Deputy Foreign Minister Ho Sun Seon and his Korean counterpart Cho Tae-yang reiterated their strong will to conclude a free trade agreement between the two countries later this year and lift two-way trade turnover to $70 billion by 2020. Informed about the recent developments in the EC with China's illegal stationing of the Haiyang Shuyou 981 oil rig in Vietnam's continental shelf and exclusive economic zone, Cho Tae-yang called for the parties concerned to settle the dispute through peaceful means in line with international law. in regards to the situation in the Korean Peninsula and inter-Korean relations. Sun reaffirmed Vietnam's consistent policy of backing peace, stability, and denuclearization in the region. A credit package worth approximately $16 million is set to be implemented in accordance with the value chain model organized by the State Bank of Vietnam. Loans will be provided throughout the process of manufacturing, processing, selling and exporting products. This model is expected to alleviate business concerns about capital, allow large-scale agricultural production, and lay the foundation for future technological advances in agriculture.
4 firms in the Mekong Delta province of An Giang will be the first to receive loans from the new value chain scheme in agricultural production. The interest rate are up to 7% per year for short-term loans, 10% per year for mid-term loans, and 10.5% per year for long-term loans. Initial responses show that businesses are satisfied with this program.
We are pleased to join in the signing of this credit contract. This scheme will help businesses and farmers cooperate better. Farmers can benefit a lot because we will supply them with raw materials.
As the government agrees to provide capital, we are motivated to work more efficiently so that the scheme will be expanded. According to this new model, businesses can set up raw material areas, supply farmers with materials and purchase products at stable prices. For borrowers that don't have enough assets to secure their loans, commercial banks may also consider providing loans without collateral.
We are working on ways to manage cash flow and risk. For example, we may ask farmers to carry out all financial transactions via bank accounts.
The SBV has ordered the Vietnam Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development and the Joint Stock Commercial Bank for Foreign Trade of Vietnam to participate in the signing of the first credit contract. This credit contract with 4 businesses in An Giang will pave the way for future credit contracts between banks and businesses in the value chain model and allow for technological development of Vietnam agriculture industry.
The American Chamber of Commerce have forecasted that exports of Vietnamese textiles and apparel to the United States will top $9.7 billion by the year end. According to the General Department of Customs, Vietnam had already exported over $8.49 billion worth of goods to the United States in the first 4 months of this year, up 27.5% year-on-year. Among other export items in recording significant turnover growth were mobile phones and their components, seafood, machines and equipment. Trade experts attributed this impressive result to the great efforts made by Vietnamese firms to ensure their export growth rates in the context of harsher competition from rival countries and stricter U.S. trade barriers. Lotus seeds have been a specialty of Hue Citadel for generations. These seeds get their distinctive flavor from the rich deposits at the bottom of Tiếng Tâm Lake. However, this traditional product is struggling to maintain its place within the market as lotus growers are slowly turning away from their traditional business.
In years past, visitors to Hue City during the summer could enjoy the fragrant lotus seeds taken from Tiếng Tâm Lake. Lotus growers like Nguyễn Đức Thọ often began preparations for the new season in March. However, there's no sign of preparations being made this year, as lotus growers have suffered such low yields and profits over recent years. Today, the lake surface is clogged with duckweed.
5 years ago, the lotus in Tiếng Tâm Lake stopped growing. We noticed that they stopped growing at an early stage when they were only about 15 centimeters above the water's surface.
According to locals, the lotus yield from Tiếng Tâm Lake has been very poor in recent years, and other ponds in the region are in the same condition. Due to pollution from water drainage systems, the lotus has gradually disappeared as the lake's bottom is lined with decaying organic matter and is in need of dredging.
Tịnh Tâm Lake is now much narrower and the lake's surface is crowded with weeds. Domestic waste has contributed to the pollution of the lake and reduced the water's quality. Thus, lotuses in the lake cannot grow, and so growers have given up their traditional jobs.
Tịnh Tâm lotus growers are faced with a worrying situation as their product is at risk of losing its brand reputation as a clean and traditional natural product. In order to revive this industry and return Tịnh Tâm Lake to its former glory, the lake will need to be dredged and have the weeds removed. Only then can this age-old industry be preserved for future generations.
Thousands of books have been sent to the soldiers stationed on the Giàn archipelago. Reading is one of the main leisure activities on the islands when the officers and soldiers have finished training and patrolling. Books are said to diversify the soldiers' spiritual lives and provide them with knowledge, making it easier for them to find a job after fulfilling their duties.
Many of the books presented to the officers and soldiers working on islands of the Giàn archipelago are recently published. Various publishers on the mainland have donated the books to the soldiers, and they are excited to have something to read.
I like to read books about history, literature, and other subjects.
On large islands, it is not difficult to find a library like this, with thousands of books on a variety of fields. Due to the lack of infrastructure, education on the island has faced a lot of obstacles, so books are a good way of improving the literacy of the inhabitants. The reading facilities come from donations carried out by organizations and individuals on the mainland.
These books contribute to our library. Here the soldiers come in their spare time to read, relax, and educate themselves. I hope that in the future there will be more good books presented to the soldiers. Here, we regularly keep track of the country's events. The soldiers also read books concerning island environment, farming, and marine creatures.
More and more books will be sent from the mainland to the Giàn archipelago and other islands in Vietnam's waters to encourage the soldiers here to fulfill their duties.
Propaganda posters like these are familiar to Vietnamese people not only during times of war but also at present for the purposes of promoting social or political messages or during national holidays and anniversaries. Today in Culture Watch, we give you a closer look at how such posters are made by meeting a military artist who has made a career out of this art form.
Having spent nearly 40 years in the military and 30 years as an artist, Colonel Quốc is among very few military artists who have created propaganda posters throughout their career.
I was an Alice Force member, and my division always needs such propaganda posters to encourage and raise awareness among our division and troops. I participated in all aspects of the work back then, from painting to printing, especially on the big ones which were displayed all over the place within my division. That's how my career as a propaganda poster artist began.
Before gaining such popularity like today, Vietnamese propaganda has gone through a history that originated from the wartime in early 20th century.
Vietnamese propaganda posters were widely introduced during the 1940s-1950 period, especially during the American War. Posters from that time reflected the people's lives and the war, as well as contributing to the nation's effort in motivating soldiers and people.
Propaganda posters go through several steps with much effort from the artists before making the transition from the initial sketch to the finished poster display on the street. The most important part, though, is defining the spirit of the poster.
Artists must think of the poster's main idea that carries the message specific to the campaign he is working on. After that, the shape and the wording. Propaganda posters differ from other art forms by their bold shapes and lines, and vivid colors set in distinctive contrast for maximum effect when printed on a large scale for display on street corners or public spaces. This is my most recent work, a poster entitled "Fishermen Continue Offshore Fishing and Affirm the Nation's Sovereignty and Integrity."
In the past, without the help of modern technology, artists like Quốc had to draw completely by hand, but now design software such as CorelDRAW save a lot of time and effort. Quốc first had to do research and find all related articles and images associated with fishermen, fishing, and the nation's islands. He then drew each layer from the background, outlined and colored each character and object. Finally, he assembled all these parts and added the wording to complete the poster.
As an artist, a member of the military, and a citizen, I consider it my responsibility to compose posters for the nation's important events, anniversaries, and political campaigns in order to raise awareness, as well as instruct and motivate Vietnamese people.
Quốc is now passing the torch to younger artists through various poster competitions, with him as the head of the organizing board and judging panel. These hundreds of posters, which were submitted in a recent competition, will continue to send out meaningful messages.
A picture is worth 1,000 words. That saying is truer than true when it comes to propaganda posters. These posters aim at leaving strong message and impressing a viewer at their very first glance. That is also what artists like Trịnh Bá Quát working nights and days to achieve in wartime and at the present. Minh Trang for VTV International.
VTV News will now continue with the weather updates. And that's all we have for VTV News at this hour. Thank you very much for watching. You can go to vtv4.vn for other updates. And for now, goodbye from Hanoi.